Hola, Team Bio. Okay, so today's screencast is all about, surprise, surprise, DNA. We're still talking about it. We're going to talk about it for a while longer. So get excited because this is the most fascinating part of biology. Okay, so last night for homework, or I guess on Monday night for Tuesday's class, you all looked at the structure of a chromosome. So you all know now that every body cell in your body, in my body, has 46 chromosomes. But let's go back to the beginning, before we were many cells, to when we were not even alive yet. So you started out as a sperm and an egg cell that came together. Let's not talk about that part because you'll probably squirm a little bit. But obviously the sperm came from your father, and it had 23 chromosomes, and this egg cell came from your mother. It also had 23 chromosomes. And we're going to talk a little bit later on about the process of creating sperm and egg cells, creating what's called gametes, but that's not for today. So these two things came together to create a cell that had 46 chromosomes, and that was you. So you started out as one single cell, and then this cell grew, and it also divided through a process called mitosis. That again is a topic for another day. We're going to discuss in pretty great detail in the next couple weeks. But you grew into, or this cell divided into many cells, and I'm going to pause this here for a second. Oh, and I also forgot to say that this first cell is called a zygote. Not super important that you know that name, but you might hear it if you're ever reading the news about abortion or something. Okay, so now you know where that word comes from. Zygote is the fertilized egg. So it has the potential to become a person in the right conditions. Okay, so the zygote grows and divides into many cells, and each of these cells is an exact replica of this original cell. So this also has 46 chromosomes, and this has 46, and this one has 46, and so does this one has 46, and so on and so forth. I think you get the picture. But every cell in this ball of cells, which is now called a blastula, is an exact replica of this zygote. So part of the reason why we are spending so much time talking about DNA replication is that it's really important in the process of growth and development, and also maintenance of your body. Your entire gastrointestinal tract is turning over every 3 days, so you have an entire new lining. So those cells are dividing constantly. So the process that we're doing in class of DNA replication is really important to know and understand. So yada yada yada, you start out as a big ball of cells, it eventually becomes hollow, and then these cells, they start to specialize. So, for example, the cells that are destined to end up in your brain become neurons. The cells that are destined to end up in your muscles become muscle tissue. The cells that are destined to become skin are becoming skin tissue. Fat cells become adipose tissue. So all the specialization occurs in your brain, your bone, your muscle, and eventually you get you. I know this is an exact replica of you. You look exactly like this. So, if you were to take you and go into your brain and pluck out a cell, this would be a neuron. And neurons don't actually look like that, but bear with me. And then you were going to your thigh muscle and pluck out another cell. And then you were to go into the nuclei of each of these cells and pull out all the chromosomes. You could line them up and order them by size, and you'd get something that looks something like this. Okay, so we've lined up all our chromosomes from our, let's say, our neuron, and you'll see this person has 46 chromosomes, 23 pairs. So, for example, this came from their mom, and this came from their dad, this came from their mom, this came from their dad, this came from their mom, this came from their dad, and so on and so forth. And if you look down here, where this says X and Y, so you have what's called 22 autosomes. Those are chromosomes that everyone has, and then 2 sex chromosomes. These determine your sex. So this person is a man because they are XY. If this was a female, there would not be a Y chromosome, but there would be 2 X's. Okay, but this is a male. And okay, yeah, so this karyotype that we took from the neuron would look exactly the same if we took it from the muscle tissue, which is pretty incredible. This means that all the information that is stored within a neuron, or the neuron contains all the information necessary to become a muscle, and theoretically, this neuron could become a muscle if it was in the right conditions. And not only could this neuron become a muscle, but it actually contains all the information to make every single cell in the entire body, because this nucleus is the exact same information as was encoded in our first 46 chromosomes here. They are the same thing. So that's pretty amazing that this neuron has the potential to become every cell in the body. Now, it doesn't do that because cells go through a specialization process that we said specialized, but this actually has a special name. It's called differentiation. And in the differentiation process, cells become faded. So things that are destined to become neurons, and then neurons can only produce other neuronal type tissue. They can't produce muscle tissues naturally. But actually, you can take a neuron out of the body and put it into a lab, and under the right conditions, you can cause the neuron to de-differentiate. So to look more like this initial mass of cells rather than what it looks like now. Sorry, Katrina just came and interrupted me. I don't remember where I was. But I think I was talking about once you become differentiated, you can't go back. But, however, in a lab, you can subject these cells to conditions under which they de-differentiate. And so, like I said before, there's the potential to become a whole new you. And we've actually done this, not with people, but with other organisms, and this process is called cloning. We've done it, we know how to do it, it's possible, and it's possible because every cell contains all the information for an entire organism. We're going to talk more about cloning in, probably not in the next week, but the week following that. So get excited. Some pretty interesting stuff with a really interesting history. Okay, this is a relatively short screencast, but that's all I have for you today. Hopefully you understand the importance of learning about DNA replication. It's a little bit more clear why this is such an integral process in growth and development. And I hope you're excited to learn a little bit about cloning, because it's a really fascinating topic, really interesting science. Okay, that's all for today.